I forget where I'm at. Sometimes I think I'm in Nebraska picking corn. But, what I like is we become good friends, I think. And I really support what you're doing. And, and I really think you need to get out to, what you need to get out. And what better way to do it is having a podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I'll make a quick note about that and then jump back about this. This is the most scariest discovery I've found. And I just sent a file to James. I just sent it to you in Messenger on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, I just got it actually.
If you have, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I just got it. I don't know what it is, but I've got it anyway.
I'm going to talk about the backstory about that. If you have a chance on the side, if you have a chance to put some headphones on or something and listen to it very carefully, because I know this is kind of right up your alley with ghost sounds and things like that, but it was part of an experience that was tied to a Bigfoot experience, okay? So as far as the podcast goes, a 2-hour show once a week seems to be, I'm finding now it's a lot of work. And one of the things I've discovered that when I'm trying to actually record the first hour with just me talking, and I don't have any interaction where I can have someone sitting next to me where I can bounce things back and forth, where the time really goes by really fast. I know in your case, with James there, and your guys are going back and forth, the hour just flies because it's just that much fun. But I'm trying to convey information, and I'm finding out that my mind moves faster than my mouth. And in listening to my recordings of myself, I'm actually cutting off words and sentences, and I'm just not very happy with myself. So I am doing a lot of cut and splicing or editing of the audio file to get it in an acceptable form for public consumption. So, but I'm very pleased about this particular week's episode. I did spend a lot of time, getting rid of the stuttering and all that, which is kind of annoying for most people. But I'm truly trying to figure out how to eliminate that or try to train myself to actually speak better.
You can do it, okay? Get yourself a copy holder, okay? Which and then what you do is have it in front of you. And tonight, I'm not even going to say what I say because I'll start saying it. But I made a point. I got it right in front of me not to say a particular word. And I'm going to break that habit. Once you get in the habit, you don't even realize you get into it till you start playing your shows back and you listen to it, trying to critique your own shows, and you go, oh my God, I say this every 10 words. It can happen. And all it took is I had a guest one time. It used it every other word, and somehow I picked it up, and it's easy to do. I had a problem when I was in junior high school and high school where how can you say it? I had a speech impediment. And I had to learn to substitute words because if I start saying the wrong word, I'll start stuttering. Now, no one's heard me really ever stutter because I have to reinforce in my brain what I'm going to say. Otherwise, if I say the wrong word, I'll start stuttering, and then I'll start stuttering the rest of the night.
Would you say, since you started going back into radio, as far as talk show is concerned, that you've gotten better with time?
I'm not as good as I was when I was doing it commercially, But you have to understand when you're working in a radio station that has a lot of employees, you got an engineer staring at you. To keep your job, you have to you have to be really macho. You have to be hard hitting. You got to do all this stuff. When I decided to get back into this, when Art contacted me a little over 2 years ago and said, "Hey, Gary, you need to get back into radio." I gave it a lot of thought, but when I came back, it took me a year to find myself. It really did. I am not hard hitting. I used to be hard hitting. If you listen to like Nori or if you listen to any of the other, I used to be that way. I'm not that way anymore because you know what? R.W. said it perfectly tonight. When I interview people, I make them feel comfortable. My tone of voice, my voice fluctuations I use at times, I make them feel comfortable. And, I can get more information off a guest than if I did it the other way. And the guests like coming back on my show, if you haven't noticed, because I make them feel comfortable. And I get the information out there.
Oh, yes. I'm going to reinforce what R.W. said, was that when I'm on the air with, I'm calling in and we're on the air right now, and the only thing that's missing right now is a cup of coffee, in our discussion.
Well, you can get a cup during the break.
I don't have. I got myself some water right here, so
I'll be honest with you. I stole some of my wife's vodka earlier today because I got a real bad headache, and I have my own hot water, cold water, dispenser in the studio, and I like tea,
right.
and and I love tea. Well, tonight I put a little bit of vodka in it, and I feel good.
Oh, I bet you do.
Yeah, what day is today? No, anyway, but I really am proud of you, Sam, because you've done a lot. You've created a community radio station because you felt it needed to be done. Instead of wanting to be a guest, there's nothing wrong with being a guest on shows, but you want to create your own shows and have your own thoughts come out. And that's what I'm proud about, that you've taken the move to do it. And I don't know if anything had anything, of me maybe talking to you a lot and being in radio and you being an amateur radio, and I used to be in amateur radio. I mean, we share a lot of things. I just think you're doing the right thing. And don't worry about it, because you know what? If you worry about it, it's not going to happen. Just take it as it comes, and you'll improve. Each show will get better. Trust me.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in that, and I will say that I'm starting to do it again because I can't find the words. But there's a certain amount of inspiration, and since I've started talking to you, to kind of move forward and form my own version of a show that suits what I need to accomplish. One of the things that kind of frustrates me is when you're a Bigfoot researcher, everything gets pigeonholed, like, oh, that's the Bigfoot person, and then there's the UFO person, and then there's the psychic people, and then guess what? They have 3 different conferences covering that pigeonholed topic. But you know what? This group talks amongst themselves, then this group talks amongst themselves, and the third one does the same thing. But guess what they're not doing? They're not talking with each other.
No, they're not.
The 3 groups are not communicating, because it is my experience, and when I relate this experience this evening of what I found, that when you start going down a rabbit hole about Bigfoot, it will naturally lead into other things that are part of those other 2 groups that I mentioned. And the psychic phenomena, the paranormal is woven into this with Bigfoot, as well as UFOs and aliens. So it's kind of hard for me just to come on. And I tell you what I will not do. I'm not going to pigeonhole myself like some researchers and totally put myself in a box like they have done for the last 40 years and go out and look for footprints and castings and go tramping around the remote areas of the mountains, hunting for Bigfoot, like some previous shows did, because there's no results that come from that. You're just rehashing the same things that people found for the last 40 years. There's no increase of new knowledge about what's going on. If you're going out there looking for an animal or a hybrid animal-human, and that's what you categorize a Bigfoot or something, and you keep that in your mind, that's the only constraints that I'm going to keep it within that I'm going to look for, then guess what? You'll never find what you're looking for, because you don't allow yourself to look outside the box and see that, no, it's a bigger picture than what you think it is. And that's why I'm going to be a little bit hard-hitting about my show, is I go beyond, does this exist or not? Because there's a lot of shows that they continue to ask questions. I like the show like Ancient Aliens. I'm not going to knock that. I really like the information that's presented. But you always find, they always ask, was it like this? Or was it like that? And really, they're kind of leaving the audience to make that decision about, whether or not something exists. And in my case, I'm moving beyond the question of, does Bigfoot exist? Do aliens exist? And moving past it by establishing the fact that Bigfoots do exist, aliens do exist, ETs, UFOs exist. So now let's discover what they're doing. Let's move past the first question so we can learn something for a change. I'm very passionate about that. So, hence the reason I felt it was necessary to start this Greenwater Nights project, to start piecing the information together.
Well, you know
so
what?
we do get a clear picture.
Sam, people want to hear it. That's what I try to, on my show. Some people love it that I am, trying to disclose as much as I can. And I do. When I have my guests on, I try pumping them as much as I can. And I've actually even had, like Steve Bassett tell me one time when he was on my show that I got stuff out of him that he never got, nobody, even Art Bell or being on Coast to Coast, they could never get out of him. And it's because I make people feel comfortable. I want people to realize, yes, I do believe there's a Bigfoot out there because I saw something that, whatever it wasn't human, and it wasn't a bear.
Yep.
And if you don't want to believe me, people out there, I don't care. I do believe aliens exist because I am not locked in a box, okay? Let's face it, okay? If we are the only life in all these solar systems and all these galaxies, I tell you what, you must be very small and naive and live in a closet because we're not the only life and we're not the most intelligent life out there. We could actually be no more smarter than ants. When you walk out of your porch in the morning to go to your car, you're walking on them and killing thousands of insects. They might look at us the same way. A lot of them might come here and go, oh, my God, what's good? This is leave. Absolutely. Then on the other hand, you know what? I got a funny feeling we could be no more than cattle to some of them because you look at the cattle mutilations, you look at the human mutilations, you look at people being abducted and having experiments done to them. If they are friendly, they're not friendly because if you did any of that stuff, you'd be locked away to the day you die.
That's right. And you're absolutely correct. And I often use the example of cattle, how, we farm cattle, raise cattle, and eventually, their fate. If the cattle knew what was in store for them a little bit later on, there'd be a mutiny and revolt, and they'd probably jump the fence if they had that kind of awareness.
I don't know. You know what? Look what happened in the Holocaust. Look what happened in Czechoslovakia and all these other countries with the Nazis, where they would take a city, right, of 100,000 or more Jews and close it in and starve them to death and execute thousands and tens of thousands of them. They could have rebelled, and most of them would have survived and would have crushed the whole, Nazi whole thing because the Germans wouldn't have been able to handle it. What happens is people turn into cattle. I hate to say it. They get scared and they won't do anything. So if people knew aliens were coming down and eating us, for example, they would never accept it.
Well, hence the term sheeple too. I guess that's why they. Right, we get into this passive comfort zone that we don't. We get pigeonholed into a comfort zone that we don't want to uproot the existing, situation of our lives. And sometimes it might be necessary to do so if we knew what was coming down the road.
But the government's not going to do that because you know what? They have lied to us for so many years. They're not going to come out and tell us. I mean, I honestly think this whole thing that's going on in Washington, D.C. Now, you can think I'm crazy. James, you know I'm crazy, right? But it could be a ploy to keep our minds off of what is going on. Again, after the news break, I'm going to say something because you then have almost an hour and a half of being on, Sam. But I want to voice my little opinion out there, and then we can just continue, talking about, little people and, Bigfoot and portals, which I know exist. But, again, I just want to say thank you for creating that little community station out there and streaming and creating a show. Anyway, we're going to be back in 2.5 minutes. You're listening to Sam Ritchie. James is out there, my best friend, and myself, which is my best